This is Mitch Stephen. I've purchased a house about every 4 to 5 days in or about my hometown of San Antonio, Texas for over 2.5 decades. Now, that and $7 will get you an expensive cup of coffee at one of those expensive coffee houses, but I might just know a thing or two that could help save you from losing some money or help you up your game. So stick around, because in today's episode, we're going to be talking about, does replacing a roof add value to your house? Let me tell you, it's not as simple as it sounds. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about another one of those features in a rehab that is probably more or the most expensive. So we're going to be talking about roofs and answering the question, does adding a new roof add value to your home? In this episode, we're going to be talking about when to replace or repair a roof, a little bit about permits or no permits. Then we're going to talk about insurance and roofs. And then before we conclude, I'm going to talk about a certain little roof hack you might want to consider when the stars and the moon line up just right. It's the quick, easy fix. So when it comes to whether you replace or you repair a roof, you really have to start with, what is your strategy? What's your exit strategy? What's the game plan for this house? It'll make all the difference in the world what you decide, but that's where you start. If you're moving into this house yourself, or you're going to be a landlord and have tenants move into this house, but you're going to be the owner of it for a long time, you're probably just simply going to want to replace a roof because you'll get the benefit for years and years to come, and you'll get to depreciate it. But maybe that's not your strategy. Maybe you are a seller financier. And just because the roof's leaking doesn't mean you can't seller finance the house and the leaking roof to a buyer who wants to solve those problems himself for a reduced price. So here's an example. You know, as a seller financier, and that's probably what I'm the best at of all the strategies, because I spent 27 years seller financing my buyers into the houses that I own. You know, what's cool about seller financing a house is I don't need to fix up a house to seller finance it to someone who wants to fix it. So I can seller finance the house and the hole in the roof to someone who wants to fix it. Of course, I have to adjust my price. You know, if I'm completely remodeling a house and I'm seller financing it, then it's one price. And if I'm buying a house, I'm not doing anything to it. I'm not fixing the broken windows and the door that's hanging on one hinge, nor am I fixing the hole in the roof. Then I sell it at a reduced price. And a lot of people want to buy houses at the reduced price with a 30-year mortgage with a low payment, and then they want to do the work themselves and get the benefit of the appreciation and the forced appreciation. So you don't always have to fix a leaking roof. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, it depends on your strategy, what you want to do. Now, there's one thing you always want to do when it comes to roofs or foundations or the more expensive components of a rehab. You always want to get at least 3 bids. Please, ask me how I know about this. Now, the times that I haven't gotten 3 bids, I've probably always paid more. Why would anyone not get 3 bids? Well, it's simple. We as AAA entrepreneurs sometimes are moving so fast or have so little time, we've compressed our day so tight that we simply don't have the time or won't slow down enough to get 3 bids. And believe me, that moving fast that we do as AAA entrepreneurs costs us money all the time. Now, I don't know exactly where the graph in the chart where the 2 lines meet, but somewhere we got to slow down a little bit so we can quit losing money for all the mistakes we're making for moving too fast. And this is one of the prime reasons. Slow down just a little bit, get 3 bids. You might be surprised at the price differential between bid A, B, and C. It could be thousands of dollars. Moving fast makes you feel like you're getting more done and you're presenting more opportunities in less time, but you're also losing a lot of money out of the back door because we're making mistakes and we're not doing things smart as we could because we're just moving too dang fast. The next topic is permits. Do you pull a permit or you don't pull a permit? Well, a lot of that depends on just how stringent your permit police are in your town or your county. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that we should go out and break laws. But, these laws, if we think about them, are not going to kill anybody. No one's going to get injured or wounded. And if there are some permits that we should pull that could risk that, then we definitely pull the permits. But let me tell you this. I've done hundreds of roofs in my lifetime. I haven't pulled permits on very many of them. Now, what's my rationale? It's not that I don't want to pay the fee, because I don't mind paying the fee. The problem is they just slow your job down to a crawl. They'll get there to inspect when they get there. They won't tell you what time they're going to get there. They'll just say sometimes between 8 and noon. So I got people sitting around for 4 hours doing nothing, waiting on a guy. Then maybe he shows up, maybe he doesn't. And there's nothing to do about it. One thing you don't ever want to do is chew an electrical or roofer's inspector's ass out, because that'll make your job really hard. So you got to always keep a smile with them, no matter how they abuse you or what they do to you, and you've got to keep a good relationship with them. My thought process was, if they catch me, they catch me. I'll pay the fine and the permit, but I'm going to make them earn that money. I was doing roofs over the weekends. I was making sure that all the debris was being put in the backyard instead of the front yard. I was making sure that we were doing the roof in 1 or 2 days before Monday rolled around. And I did a lot of roofs. And it wasn't the point to circumvent material quality or the workmanship quality, because we wanted to do everything by the book. I just didn't want to have to slow down to their pace. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm telling you what I did. Now, lately, in the same town where I did do these things without permits, I wouldn't do it one time right now the way things are. They've hired way more inspectors. They've gotten way more sophisticated about how they are being able to bust you for not pulling permits, and the fines have gotten really big. So what I used to do and what I would do today are completely two different things. I'm pulling permits on everything today. It's bad at my city. They'll even charge me fines for non-permitted work that was done before I even owned the house, is how bad it is in my city. So we're pulling permits on everything. But before we conclude this topic, I was talking about things that were dangerous or could be risky to life. When you're redoing electricity can kill somebody. It can burn a house down. It can hurt innocent children, babies, and even adults. So when you're dealing with electricity, always pull a permit when you're dealing with electricity. The last thing you want on your conscience or in your history is that you hired someone who wasn't licensed and you didn't pull a permit, and that house burned down and a baby got burnt in that house because of that neglect. That would be a horrible situation. And that's why I have always pulled electrical permits and always hired a licensed electrician. So when you're looking at your jobs, permit, no permit, look at the liability of that job. There's other jobs that are like that. Demolition. If someone tears out the wrong beam in a house at the wrong time, that house is going to fall, and maybe it'll crush them and other people working in the house. So there are jobs you definitely want to hire a pro that's licensed, that's know what they're doing, and that you want to permit and do everything right by the book. Think about this when you're deciding permit, no permit, okay? Think about, could this be life or death? And if the answer, it could be life or death, then there's no question. You pull the permit, you hire a licensed pro. Another thing I'd like to cover in this episode, because I think it's really important, is a little bit about roof insurance. You see, not all insurance companies are created equal, and all of them have different what drives them and what drives their business, what they will do, what they won't do. Here's what I see a lot. People don't get 3 bids on roof insurance. Just like I'm telling you to get 3 bids on the roof itself, get 3 bids on the roof insurance. I see people call one person or call their go-to insurance guy, and the insurance guy says, we're not going to insure that roof. So they go out and put a whole new roof on because their insurance guy said, we're not going to accept this roof. When in fact, if you'd have just called 2 or 3 other roof insurance companies or other insurance companies about the roof, you would have found one that would have insured the house with the roof the way it is and saved yourself a whole new roof. So always get 3 bids when it comes to house insurance, and take note of what the roof is costing you or what kind of depreciation they're putting on your roof. And don't be surprised if, just like the roofing bids vary greatly, so will the insurance bids for the house. They will vary greatly too, respectively. So get 3 bids always. Now, before we get to that little roof hack that I wanted you to be sure and learn to recognize when the stars and the moon line up so you can pull this hack, I want to talk to you about that like button and that share button. Please mash on those if I'm providing some helpful information, or if this episode or other episodes are helping you get your feet under you as far as this creative real estate investing business, then let the world know for us, because there's a lot of people out there that don't even know this YouTube channel exists. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Now back to that tip. So here's a little hack when it comes to new roofs. When there's a very simple roof line, just a A side and a B side, it just looks like this. There's no real valleys or anything. Sometimes you can just order the metal to fit side A and side B, and you can just screw an R panel roofing panel right over the top of the existing composition shingle roof, and you can have a metal roof look in little to no time, super inexpensive, and all you need is just a ridge cap to go over the 2 pieces, right down the center, and you're done. It looks great, it'll last forever, and here's a tip when you're putting metal panels on top of your roof. You'll want to get a certain kind of screw that I've had a lot of luck with. When I don't get this screw, I have problems within 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years. There are 2 different kinds of screws that you use to screw the metal into the wood or over the top of composition shingles. One is the screw with a washer, with a rubber washer underneath it. And as the screw gets tight, the rubber washer expands out and it pushes out past the metal washer. Now, the sun bakes that rubber and causes splits in that rubber, and then those cracks seem to run eventually underneath the washer and all the way to the edge. The kind of screw that I suggest that you buy is called a dome screw. It has the multi-sided screw head with a dome, with a washer that fits up into that dome, and the washer actually sticks below the dome until you start pressing down and the screw starts going into the wood, and then the washer starts getting crimped into the dome and it starts to expand and fill up the dome, and the sun doesn't hit that rubber that's inside that dome that's compressed tight so that it won't leak. And I suggest that you buy those dome screws. They're a little more expensive, but you will probably not have to replace them for decades. And that's my roof hack, but wait, there's more. The problem with metal roofs and doing this roof hack in some areas, especially where it hails a lot, is your insurance might go up as much as $100, $150 a month. Because what happened? There would be hailstorms come through and the hail would hit the metal and it would dent the metal. Now the roof wouldn't be leaking, but cosmetically the house doesn't look so good anymore. So people have been calling for roof replacements even though the roof wasn't leaking, but just to fix the aesthetic problem after a hailstorm. So in certain areas you might want to check before you do this roof hack. You'll save a lot of money up front real quick by putting on this metal roof over the top of the old shingles. But if you're planning on being a landlord or keeping this house yourself, it's not worth it, because $100 to $150 a month extra in insurance will certainly outrun whatever you saved on this hack at some point in time. Now, if you're just selling this house and moving along, you could rationalize that, well, it won't be my insurance increase, it'll be for someone else's. But you also have to remember, the extra $150 a month to your new buyer might stress them. And this could be especially important if you're selling your houses and you're carrying the financing for your buyer. That would be really important not to cost them an extra $100, $150 a month in insurance. So again, all went back to what is your strategy as to what are the choices you make when it comes to a new roof. And today I would like to give you a free webinar. It's called The Art of Creative Real Estate Investing, and you can get it by clicking on this link right here, or you can go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and click on the link that says The Art of Creative Real Estate Investing Webinar. And it'll be digitally downloaded and you will be watching the strategies that have made me millions of dollars in my career. It's quick, it's fun, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. All right, my friends, I'm headed to the next episode. Why don't you join me?